Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to HLTV Confirmed, and this is the Jonathan E special. I'm glad you all could be here, episode number 24, and we're going to be talking about all things Jonathan E. We want to get all of you forum users who love to just rattle off nonsense involved. So Jonathan E will be making an appearance later tonight, so if you guys hang around, you'll get to see him. First time anyone ever gets to look at Jonathan E, but he'll come later. For now, I have to introduce my two individuals who'll be helping me on this podcast journey. And first and foremost, we have Prof. Prof, how you doing?
Great, especially because Johnny is going to be joining us later. Never saw him, same as no one on the forums, no one in the HLTV staff saw him, so it's going to be an exciting day.
Yeah, and Striker, how do you feel about the Jonathan E special?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. I've been with HLTV for 6 years, even I don't know what he looks like, so enjoying.
All right, so if you guys hang around, I swear that Jonathan E will turn up at some point. But for now, we're going to get into the Counter-Strike. So let's start with the new segment we've been doing that we've kind of impromptually added things to, and that's been the yaying and the naying of different topics. Now, a lot's happened. We've had basically 3 weeks since our last podcast. So all I'm going to do is say an event name, and we'll yay or we'll nay. It's simple as that. So let's start in chronological order. Blast LA, yay or nay?
Holy shit, you're taking this. Prof, do you know?
I don't know.
I went for an A. I'm not sure if it's live on the.
Oh, it's live. Waiting for Striker. Striker hasn't gone yet. He's gone with yay. Okay, so Prof, you've gone with nay. Tell us why you've nayed it. Why have you said nay?
It's just it wasn't, nothing relevant happened at that event. Like that is more or less it. That's one sentence explanation. Like Liquid won, okay. FaZe got to the final. FaZe was in the final, right? They upset NRG. That was kind of like okay, but didn't really show us anything. Renegades were shit, but they were also shit before. I guess that's maybe the biggest storyline, how shit Renegades were over there, and that was kind of the warning sign for them. But other than that, it's like nothing happened there that changed my view on any of the teams or anything. So that's my
okay. View. Yeah. So I'll agree with that the landscape of Counter-Strike did not change because of that event. Though, Striker, why are you saying yay?
because of the same reasons. Because everything made sense that happened there, pretty much. Like, sure, Cloud9, I guess, did a little bit better. If Cloud9 did a little bit better than we would have expected, I guess that's one part. I don't think any of us had them placing anywhere outside of the top bottom. We didn't think they were going to go into the playoffs. Maybe they had like an outside chance, but still, them actually making it was basically the only surprise of the tournament. But otherwise, everything went pretty much as expected. The Renegades thing, yeah, I agree. That was maybe not compared to their previous events because they went out in Cologne in last place as well. So it's not that big of a surprise, but still, in this kind of competition, we probably would have expected them to do a little bit better.
Okay, and my reason for yaying it was because even though they were going to have a venue where and then they had to make this happen, for how bad things possibly could have been, I think that they managed to put together something that was interesting to the people there. I was a bit disappointed that the live viewers didn't come and say hi to me more, because I intentionally for the first day sat outside or sat in the chairs where everybody else was, because I thought this whole thing about giving the people coming to the event a different experience. And I was like, well, if they want to come and sit next to me and talk about the Counter-Strike as we watch it, that'd be different from what I normally do. And no one really said hi. So I thought that was a little bit disappointing. But overall, I think that they salvaged it. I look at things, this is how far gone I am from being a player. This is why I'm going to spend 21 days playing Counter-Strike before the major. But now I look at things from an event perspective. Like when we're talking about this stuff, I didn't even think from what changed in the landscape of Counter-Strike. So yeah, it's interesting to see different takes. So let's go to the next event we had in the chain of things. We will go with the NA and EU minors. Yay or nay? All right, well, we've all gone with yay. Striker, you want to take this one?
I think it just went pretty much as expected. I actually called both of the first two places. I called both Crazy and Mousesports. And wait, what else happened? I'm trying to remember because like all these events that we're going
Fnatic didn't make it first time.
Fnatic didn't make it. North went third and made it through to the plans. Kind of, I was almost expecting them to be a little bit too PTSD, but then again, they would have had to lose two best of threes to much worse teams than they are. So I guess for them to make it through the play-in makes just perfect sense. Then yeah, generally just went pretty much as expected. I would have expected Fnatic to do a little bit better at least, but still I didn't think... This is something that I said on the last show when we were talking about the minors, which was that neither North or Fnatic were making me particularly confident in their ability to go through from first or second place. I knew Mousesports were going to make it. Of course, it was a little bit too close in the group stage for comfort. And yeah, I thought Crazy were going to have a pretty good chance. So yeah.
All right, well, I've fucked up here because we're talking about the minors later. I've jumped the gun a little bit. So we'll finish off the minors at another point. But on our list of things to do, we don't have IAM Chicago. So IAM Chicago, yay or nay? I feel like everyone's going to say yay to this one. Yeah, of course. For this event, I was super surprised with the turnout that ESL managed to get because I was scared. From what we had last time where we were in a smaller venue, I know they did a very good job of, moving the stage, but like that's what it looked like, right? I don't know. I think that venue can hold some ridiculous amount of people. So I was really worried that it would look like hugely barren, but I think ESL did a fantastic job of filling it out. And look, I'm going to make a statement right now. If Liquid just keep fucking winning everything, that's so good for Counter-Strike in North America. I don't mean Counter-Strike teams. I don't mean anything like that. I mean like the events that we run in North America. If Liquid just keep winning, right? Everybody's going to want to go to the events because they're so patriotic, the Americans, right? They just want to get out there and watch their fucking team. So Liquid right now, by being the best team in the world, is actually doing fantastic stuff for North American CS, right? So that's pretty cool. And I think this is another event where the results pretty much went as expected, right? That's what I was happy with. It was an event we went to. There was people there. They were cheering. They were having a good time. From a Counter-Strike perspective, everything was good. I just thought it was overall like that should be the baseline for events. I reckon like they've like nailed the starting point for an event right there. Then obviously if it turns into something bigger and more people come or whatever, that's sick. But that was great. I love that one. What about you guys?
I missed 90% just because of the time zones, being at the minor and being at the minor the whole day, not really up to staying like up to 2 a.m. watching, I don't know, Zeus playing for MIBR, and that wasn't that exciting. But just from what I saw, it was the good event. Like, what is this year-ning an event? Like, what can I say? There's nothing bad about it. It's an okay thing.
But some events are shit shows, mate. We've covered, what did we do? We did that French event earlier where they had that fucking hell. All right, we can probably move swiftly on here to get to the topics we have listed. So the first one you guys can see right there, GGBet Invitational scheduled during the player break. Now, for those of you who missed it, ESL1 New York is approximately 2 weeks, a week and a half after the major ends, I believe. And
at the end of September, yeah.
Yeah, so the Invitational, which is basically just another word for qualifier, for ESL1 New York has been placed in the middle of the player break. Now, a lot of the teams who are playing in a consistent field, they obviously want to fucking compete, but they've taken holidays. They booked holidays and they're disappointed about that. So let's yay or nay this one. I feel like it should be a pretty easy one. I
already did mine. I hope it went through.
And I've gone with the alternative here because I knew what you guys were going to say, and I've yayed it. Now, I genuinely do not think that any qualifiers for Tier 1 events like ESL1 New York should be played within the player break. But I also think, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, from a TO standpoint, if you guys look at the calendar, they can't run it during the major. They can't run it the week after the major because that wouldn't be enough time to do visas, all the bullshit.
Especially if like a Russian team made it through.
I mean, we saw
like, it would have been so complicated
last time for Chicago.
Yeah, so there needs to be a long enough lead-in time. There just wouldn't be enough time. So this is poor planning. It should have been probably before. But to find spare time, like my calendar, right? I look at it on my phone. I'm not going to show all you guys because it's fucking laced with stuff. But when I go through it, I don't see free time for me. So for the players, like my calendar is red until the end of the year. So if I don't see free time for me, I don't know when they would do it, especially with a 3/4 week chunk out of the middle of the year. Now, is it poor planning? Yes. Should they have done it before the play break? Yes. Do I understand why it's in the play break? Yes. So I can see it from all perspectives. I do not think that it should be this way because we're going to miss out on having good teams at New York now. But I get it. I get it. So maybe we can just...
It's just against the whole premise of a player break, right? Like the players did this exactly just to make sure none of the tournament organizers actually hold anything during the player break. Obviously, online qualifiers is a little bit different, but still, like there has to be some way of fitting it somewhere else.
do you guys think though that the player break is only designed for tier 1 teams? Because that's my opinion. I think that the player break is only designed for the teams constantly on the circuit. Because when I was in Renegades, in like when we were living in the States, we were practicing nonstop because we wanted to get onto the circuit. But once you're onto the circuit and you have the invites coming your way, your approach can change, right? You don't need to play all the online qualifiers. You don't need to do well, in theory, you don't. So the teams who are on the circuit and traveling around the year, they definitely need a player break, right? Because like just how physically ruined your body can get from travel is one of the first things of why you need a break. But they also need it to kind of think about things as well. So I think that the player break is only for the tier 1 teams, which is maybe why we're having this issue. Because if you look at the squads who are signed up for the qualifier, maybe we'll get Lucas to bring it up. I know I should get him a link, shouldn't I? But the teams there are on the cusp of like tier 2, tier 3, if I remember looking at it rightly.
Yeah, it's like, who's the best team here? I guess like Avantgarde currently. Crazy was supposed to play there also. Now that they qualified for the major, or taking a break. If they didn't, they would probably be playing this. But it's kind of, I mean, most of these teams were going to be on the cusp of this kind of a thing. But it's also, it's not only Mousesports, like North isn't here, they would play.
I mean, there's a bunch of, that's the problem, right, with these 8-team tournaments, especially because obviously only like 6 invites are going to go through that. Like the another 2 are going to be qualifiers. And so, or like maybe 2 or 3. So only 6 teams will actually go through as an invite. And so obviously like a team somewhere at top 10, which is most sports at this point, is going to miss out on that invite if enough teams from the top actually accept. So they are a tier 1 team, but they have to play through a qualifier. So though these teams are the ones getting kind of fucked by the scheduling issues.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's ESL's issue that they now have a team, or they will have a team that is not that exciting for the viewers as the team that they could have had.
And they already have E-United, so we're going to have 2 teams.
And they already have E-United, yeah. So that's their issue. Obviously, when you have these GGBet style invitational things, then it has to happen after the initial qualifier, so it just takes so much time. As you said, it's a scheduling issue that was done poorly. But at the other hand, at least we'll have something going on during the player break. It'll be like some form of pretty decent CS, like Force is there and a couple of other decent teams. So it's good for the viewers. It's shit for the top teams, but whatever. Like Mousesports North, everyone will survive with not going to ESL 1 New York. It's not going to kill them, right?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because if these 8 teams like Chicago and New York's are happening, at that point I would just want the best 8 teams invited, right? Like if that's like a couple events they're going to run, I'd want the cream of the crop. I don't want anybody there that's a waste of time, because if you're having the group stage is usually where we get the shit teams out of the events. Like I'm not meaning that to sound harsh. I want these teams to come over from Korea, to come over from fucking Thailand to South America. I want them to come over and I want them to play and I want them to get the experience. But if it's like a tier 1 event, ESL 1 New York, and I don't know why this hasn't happened, could be one of the greatest events in the whole calendar. We're in the fucking Barclays Center in New York. We could be fucking having one of the most insane events every year. Now, unfortunately, it's hard to sell tickets in New York. It's hard to sell tickets in America, sorry, not just New York. But that being the problem kind of sucks. And obviously, not having all the headliners here sucks as well. Because if you look at this, we have a disparity. You've got Liquid, you've got fucking Astralis, you've got ENTS, you've got G2, and you've got FaZe, or NRG as well. There's some heavy hitting names within the top 10.
There's basically like Vitality missing like out of the league teams basically. That's it.
Yeah,
that's pretty stacked outside of United, obviously.
If we had, those last 2 slots filled by other teams in the top 10, that would be it'd be a banger. But
I mean, it should have been a Furia, but then United just literally wrecked them when Marquee dropped like 38 kills on Overpass or some shit, and they beat them. So that's whatever. I mean, they deserved the spot. They beat the team, right? But if that could have been better, definitely. So what can you?
I mean, yeah. Imagine if like the last 2 spots would have been Vitality and whatever, like a North or something like that. Like it would have been a really sick event, honestly.
All right. Well, we've yayed and we've nayed the qualifier. We see that.
I mean,
one's.
by the way, especially because you're missing like all those bad matchups and stuff like that, like the first round matchups of Cologne, which are 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, blah blah blah, and obviously those bottom two teams that maybe not Cologne specifically because that was just stacked as hell in general, but generally these 16 team events have like maybe 3 or 4 teams that we just know are gonna bomb out in groups, like an MVP PK or somebody like that. So for a tournament to only have like the good matches would have been pretty sick.
Yeah, and it's more of a digestible amount of time, right? 4 days, compared to the normal events that are running obviously 6 days. Most people aren't watching the first 2 days of the event, and like that kind of lots of people are. Lots of you guys in the fucking chat right now watching the podcast. You people probably listening to the podcast. You guys watch all the Counter-Strike. You're the people who are the hardcore audience, right? That's what we're dealing with right here. It's obviously very difficult to get the casual audience to tune into every single game of Counter-Strike. I actually wanted to take a bit of a tangent here. So let my brain just catch up to where I wanted to go. This was a topic that I wanted to talk about, and we can yay and we nay in the beginning. And I want to explain to you guys a couple of traditional sporting examples, and then we can translate it over into Counter-Strike. So cricket is where I'll start. You guys probably don't know cricket very well, but we can go on from there. So in cricket, you have 1 days. You have test matches. A test match goes up for up to 5 days. That's how long a cricket match can go for over a test match. You can have 1 dayers, which are just a match that goes for 1 day. It's literally a whole day. Like you start in the morning and then you finish when the sun goes down. Sometimes they even turn the lights on and they keep playing at nighttime. You can have 3 dayers. You can have 20-20, which is the fast format. You go and you watch that within 3 hours. In tennis, you've got clay courts, you've got grass courts, you've got fucking the hard courts, whatever it is. In football, you've got proper football, like the normal that we're all used to seeing at the World Cup. We've got 5-a-side, we've got indoor, we've got all these different variations. Do you guys think in Counter-Strike, we know this, and I'll fucking throw the question in there while you guys are thinking about it. Do we think that Counter-Strike should have something like that? And I'm talking about like, remember CGS, we had MR9 rules, right? With 16K start money. If we had a tournament, let's just use Blast as an example. If Blast ran a tournament that was MR9 16K and it was a thing that you could watch and it was just pure entertainment, do you think that would be something that people would be interested in? Or do you think Counter-Strike's not big enough yet to facilitate those kind of like side shoots of things? Are we yaying or we naying?
I went yay already just because of the question, how you formulated the question. Basically, I do think this is something that people would be interested in. Obviously, me as a pretty damn hardcore fan, I wouldn't consider this like normal Counter-Strike. We're talking about it being more about entertainment, and I'm not saying there's no place for that in the scene, not at all. Like you say, that there's people who want to watch that, so it will always have a place. It's probably wouldn't do it for me. It would be interesting to see like how teams would approach it, but after we got used to this kind of a format as well, I feel like we would just realize what kind of downsides it has, like MR9 and stuff like that, and how like why it got changed in the first place, right? So like,
I don't think it's about like a specific like a MR9 16K. It's like, is there a potential for anything different, like any different rule set? I don't know, 3v3 or whatever the fuck, that could be interesting to people. I think it could be, but at the same time, what I find interesting in CS is just like having people accustomed to a meta and then people adapting to that, encountering that, and the flow that happens in like this month to that month, tournament to tournament, and then like small changes that come in and change the way certain maps are played, the sidedness of maps. That is the thing that is the most interesting to me. And then I'm not sure how that would translate. Like we'd have to have a pretty strong scene that plays like a 3v3 mode to make that one interesting, in my opinion. It can't be just like an off tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, because like I think about it, right? What we give the viewer at home, and this is why I talk about like the hardcore audience and the the more loose-based fans who just don't really know a lot about Counter-Strike. For them to watch a best of 3 series, guys, can take up to 3 hours, and that's not really an amount of time which a lot of people have, especially with something that they aren't too familiar with.
Can be quite longer than 3 hours. Can be easily like 4 hours, 4.5 hours, depending if it's like overtime, the breaks in between maps, depending on the tournament organizer and stuff like that.
So it is a long time. So that's why I say something like this, because I want it to be consumable, right? Like the biggest thing for Counter-Strike is obviously our hardcore audience is fantastic. That's what we want, right? We want people who understand the nuances of the game. The things that we love about the game, we want other people to love. But right now, I don't know if we have the best way to be able to give that to people. And we all say that best of ones, aren't the best format, which is fine. But what if we just had a fun tournament? Remember the HTC 2v2s?
I was going to mention that actually as an argument that people were definitely interested in that, and they kind of had fun. But I don't see people like watching that again in like another 2 months' time or whatever. Like it couldn't be a regular thing. I think
you're right. It would have to be something which really would capture the audience in one way. So maybe it would have to be something done with the really big personalities in CS or people who are more like personality. I don't know. Anyway, it's just an interesting topic that I thought we could talk about. So we can maybe bring that one back up at a later date. The next topic.
Yep.
Sorry. Rumblings about MIBR, KNG. Now, do we think this is a good idea?
Are we voting? Yes.
Yeah, we're voting. All right, so we all think it's a good idea. Now, I think we all think it's a good idea for the same reason, but Prof, you can take this one away.
Like, he is the only player in Brazil right now that has star potential to the level that MIBR need to be a top team again. That is like
simple as that.
I was listening to your show last time, and Pimp was saying like, "Oh, there must be. You need to look into the Brazilian scene, look into the lower teams." But I looked into the lower teams, and there's not a single player that is there. There's like VSM, who everyone says is a sick player, and he's VAC banned, so that's not an option. And then you have like a couple of decent players, like the Sharks players, like Exit and Leo Drunky. They're putting up decent numbers, but they already played in Europe in like online cups and stuff like that, and they didn't blow anyone away. So that is literally everyone you have. There's like a couple of players that everyone knows that are like 28 years old at this point. It's not like Kenny. That is not the thing. So in my opinion, KNG is the only guy that we didn't see play in like the tier 1 for a long time. But when he was playing, he was pretty good. And at the same time now in INTZ, he's the guy that's carrying them all the time. So I think he has the raw skill to be the player that MIBR needs.
I think that we're all in that same standpoint. I think what he also brings alongside of Lucas is that fire again, because the other guys have already been at the top of the mountain. They've already seen what it looks like when you stand on top of Mount Everest and you look at the fucking rest of the world. They already know what that feeling is. I think Lucas, you already saw it when he played for them with the coach there as well, and definitely with KNG. If you guys watched any of the minors, they have the passion, for fucking people up. And I'm not saying that the other guys left on MIBR don't. I just think that it's difficult to see that. It's difficult to keep chasing that feeling that you've already found. And if you have other people who you can see are chasing that feeling and they're next to you, then it will help you, right? And that's why certain teams after a period of time probably just need to make a roster change anyway. Like that's the whole point, is because it's the staleness of mentality, and the mental side of this is their biggest issues, because we've all seen a game in recent times where Fallen has just gone ham with the AWP. He's been constantly reflashed into areas. He's just fucked people up. We've seen Fur with the game where he's feeling the instinctual side of things, going aggressive and finding all those kind of picks and plays. It's still there, the individual ability. I think it's just the mind, and I completely resonate with that. The mental side of this game is probably the hardest. So, it's going to be, if it happens, if they're able to sort it out, if they're able to make it work, it's probably the solution to make the Brazilians more competitive. And if it means that Fallen has to go back to secondary AWPing and rifling, for those of you who don't remember, Fallen wasn't even AWPing in the original Brazilian teams going over. It was ZQKS. Fallen wasn't even the AWPer. So if KNG takes the reins and does that job, and Fallen is like a rifler and more of a supportive element in that team, or maybe he plays as part of the pack going aggressively for entries, I think that's a good change. Because as a player as well, to reinvent yourself or have an opportunity to do so, like Fallen will get, it gives you a fresh perspective, and that will help his in-game leading as well. So, I think this is an exciting one, and I hope it happens. But I'm sorry about my webcam, everybody. I don't know what it is. Could be Henry and Machine downstairs, downloading all the porn, making me lag. But all right, we'll move on to the next topic. Now, this one here is a quick one. I don't even know what this fucking means. We're going to talk about 100 Thieves announcing their return to CS:GO. So, do we think this is good or bad?
I mean, it's hard to say that it would be bad. There's nothing that will make it bad.
Exactly. But do we think that it will be a move that will garner a top team? Or do we think it's a move that we'll see with another
theory,
project?
And I'm sticking with this, is that they're going to get Coldzera, they're going to buy out Nico, they're going to just splash out shitloads of money on people and just make a new FaZe super team, basically.
There's no way you go toe-to-toe with FaZe with a fucking... They can't go toe-to-toe with FaZe in terms of spending money, surely.
I mean, they just raised like 35 million. Right.
Sorry?
They just raised 35
million.
Oh,
100 Thieves, right?
Yeah. So they are obviously in Call of Duty, and Call of Duty has the franchise league. So I guess they'll be spending a lot of money in that direction. But they announced the CS:GO move as well. So is this maybe it's just like a PR thing to raise money? Who knows what's going on? But if they are coming in and they look like an organization that is on the rise, while FaZe, although they're big, they're kind of on the plateauing, I would feel. Obviously don't have the books, but just with the things going on recently. If someone can make a team that is like the Coldzera and Eco team, then I guess it's like them. Who else? Thing. Like, who else? Obviously, you can't know it's going to happen, but like... Who else?
I mean, anybody who has that kind of money with today's buyouts is a good thing for CS, basically. Like,
yeah,
to be able to put like an insane team together just because they have the money for it. Because most organizations were not going to be able to, or maybe they will be able to. They just don't think it's worth the risk. But for an organization who's just like hitting CS:GO from completely new, like for them to just come into CS:GO and just splash out like $5 million on the most insane lineup we've ever seen. On paper, at least, like that would just skyrocket them in the scene.
Even if it's not like Coldzera and Nico, even if it's like some combination of other semi-free agents or players and teams that are kind of stuck, even it's like a Sunny, Smuya, I don't know, fucking Lowell, whatever the fuck, some like weird combination.
Look,
like
Sunny
anything that happens, like a Sticko,
basis.
Whatever, you combine something like that, that would also be an interesting thing. But I think they also want the team to be an NA, to be in like their vicinity of their facilities and stuff like that. So that could be a hard point to get some European players, I mean.
Yeah, well, more money is good, guys. Money makes the world go round. All right, the last one for the AONA special. Astralis split from Refresh. Now, it's happened. The news is out there. It's fucking happened, boys. Now, obviously, I think this is another clear-cut one. Do we think it's good or bad? Well, I think we obviously think it's good. It's just in the details of whether it is truly good or bad. So, who was telling me? Which one of you was it? Strike? Were you telling me about it before?
Yeah.
Or Prof? Yeah. What's the situation?
Well, the situation basically is, from what I understood, and it's not completely put together. I think it's going to go up on HLTV pretty soon, so you guys can read about it pretty probably like within the next half an hour or something.
But generally, there's a Dust2 report on it.
Oh, there we go. From what I understood, the whole situation, basically, like we already heard that the two entities, the Blast one and the Teams one, are going to be separate. And apparently, Nikolai Nyholm, which is the CEO of the whole Refresh, or was the CEO, is only going to be the CEO of the Astralis group, which is going to be the teams, the Origin and Astralis and CSGO. And then somebody else is going to Refresh, as in the Blast Pro Series part, is just going to move, I think, to London, and somebody else is going to be in charge of that. Like the whole management is supposed to be separate. We don't know how much of that is going to be true, and whether like there's going to be any stake. Whether, for example, Nikolai Nyholm is going to have any stake in the Blast Pro Series 1. I don't know to what extent that part of the company was bought out or whatever, but from what I understand, it is going to be separate.
All right. Well, this one I guess we have to wait.
There's an interesting part of the report on Dust2.dk. At the end, it says because like Danish tax and whatever, you have to be public with your numbers. And it says Refresh lost 45 million Danish kronas, which is about $7 or $8 million, and like in not negative revenue, obviously. But it says, however, the company still has equity of 58 million. So like they're not in the minus, but they are losing money. So interesting. That is 7 million euros in 1 year.
What does it say, Lucas? Okay, but that would mean that the deal is done, right? Because we already heard that they were leaving. We already
No.
that
This is done. This is a done deal.
Okay, so it's all over. All right. Well, I'm the kind of guy who wants to wait and see for like one of our many lovely journalists in Counter-Strike to do some deep diving. What is happening to my laptop?
What is happening?
What did you want to do?
Open a bazillion fucking document windows.
What?
Give me 1 second.
Where are we going next? What's next on the?
I sent Lucas something. Lucas, you got to open this. This is the last one. You ready? All right. Open this one up. Do we think that Simon Gaming should have to change their logo? All right, everybody. If you missed this one, Simon Gaming were contacted by Star Ladder that their logo is too similar to that of Immortals. Now, Immortals aren't going to be in the major, nor anything to do with Immortals. Well, MIBR.
MIBR, yeah.
Never mind. Nothing to do with the Immortals logo. So unless they're planning on submitting a MIBR logo with the Immortals logo in there as well, yeah, I don't know. Simon Gaming, fucking stay strong. Your team isn't very very promising, but you can do it.
Pepsi might as well come in and claim like some sort of a problem with Simon's logo. Like that's how close Simon's and Immortals logo is, and like Pepsi to both of them.
I mean, it's like a combination of the two. I see what they're trying to say, but like at the same time, like when you look at the Simon logo, do you think anything about do you think about Immortals? Do you think about the Gamers Club? You don't.
The Gamers Club, I can see like the bottom part, like but that's.
But you see like the Immortals, like the S thing, but it's like flipped on the. It's like okay, it's obviously that the artist had some kind of just inspiration from these two logos, but it obviously doesn't even remind you of the logos.
I mean, I don't think there was, maybe from the Gamers Club, but not from Immortals. Like the background of Immortals, like the circle thing that ties in the middle. That's like that you can see that fucking anywhere. Like it's not just Immortals. Like Immortals, I'm sure inspired themselves from somewhere else as well with that particular idea. So I don't think. I don't think
maybe all of the teams
there.
that have this like Spartan mask should just sue Immortals for their very original Spartan mask design.
That's the thing. When they had the team name Immortals, I was expecting something like super cool as like the logo, and then when that was it, I was like, well, you guys aren't very original or exciting. Immortals. Think about the name Immortals. They are fucking immortal. They walk the earth. They are indestructible. You can't fucking kill them, and that's their logo. Yeah, that's not. Come on, guys.
Like, if you are immortal, why do you need a helmet, man?
Yeah,
exactly. What's the point of the helmet?
That's a good point. Anyway, I linked you something, Lucas. Don't worry about it. But basically, if anyone's excited about plagiarism, go check a case out that happened with Apple, the company, demanding Woolworths, an Australian supermarket chain, change their logo because apparently they were too similar. So that's the logos. Apple were like, Woolworths is the biggest supermarket chain in all of Australia, and Apple were like, you need to change it. I don't think we did change it. I used to work for Woolworths back in the day, but anyway, fuck them. Woolworths.
It's on the screen right now.
Yeah.
If you're...
Oh shit. Okay, I don't have.
But it's all good. We're over that. We're going to continue into the topics right now. So we're going to start with one that I assume is going to be pretty quick. Wait, we got the questions for everybody. The user questions. Users, there's a vote. You can vote. The questions which you'll be voting for. Wait, we're not ready yet. We're not ready yet. Everyone calm down. What kind of story could I tell about Woolworths that won't get me in trouble?
What did you steal? What did you steal?
I didn't steal anything. It's more like what I used to do in like produce fridges.
Oh,
it's nothing bad to anybody's food. I didn't touch any of your food. Don't worry about it, people. I'm not a fucking insidious, hateful person. I'm just promiscuous. All right, are we ready, Lucas? All right, your options are, users, you can vote for a conversation about Astralis to split from Refresh. I assume you won't vote for that because we just did that because it's in breaking news. Option 2, major rule changes, about the rule changes at the major. And option 3 is the Intel Grand Slam Season 3 update. So the new things that are going on there with the Intel Grand Slam. We'll discuss that at the end of the show if we have time. All right, moving forward. Liquid. Simple one. What makes them so good? Anyone want to put their hand up for this one?
Do you think it's simple? I mean, it's not simple.
It's not simple.
It's not simple.
I think it's very complex, but I think that the one thing that separates them from everybody else, well, it's not the one thing. I think the things that separate them from everybody else at the moment is their work ethic and the fact that they're all on the same page in terms of understanding what they want to achieve in the server. I don't mean they all want to win. Everybody wants to fucking win. Everybody wants $1 million. But I mean that they all understand the style of Counter-Strike that they want to play. And that obviously is backed up by all 5 of them being fantastically skilled individuals. For me, like, this is what I talk about on the desks. So, like, I want you guys to tell me why you think. Because I obviously spout my reasons. People don't want to hear that again.
Personally, I like that you didn't start with them being fantastically skilled individually. Of course, that's true, and they probably are the most skilled lineup we've ever seen. But I don't think that that's the biggest part in their success. I don't think that's the case at all. I definitely agree with the fact that they just understand very well what to do for each other. Like you can see how Twists doesn't really even have like particularly star roles, but he's able to make them work, and not just because he's skilled. It's because he understands what that role needs, right? And that doesn't really come down to skill. It also comes down to your mental and stuff like that. So they just understand very well what they need to give up in order to make each other better, and to make the whole team work and the whole play style work. So I think that's the biggest part that's made them the best team in the world, not the skilled, even though obviously that helps a lot, and that's what's a lot of the time is what's going to take you over the edge. But it's not the baseline that you need to become the best team in the world, let alone as dominant as they have been.
Prof?
I think the interesting part is how they kind of managed to figure out a way to use that skill and not overcomplicate things, because there have been a lot of very skilled teams in the past and have not been successful, and then for different reasons, obviously. But this one really they just hit the very simple yet very effective way of playing, where they have a good baseline of tactics, of team play, but at the same time sometimes they do just stupid shit, like someone just pushes the monster smoke and goes in and kills 3 guys, and it's like, okay, we went around this way. And then if that doesn't work, they can also play the whatever the fuck they want. Like, I've watched overpass games where on the T side they just hit B for like 8 rounds in a row with like a couple of flashes and one smoke, and it works. And they don't they're expecting us to come B, now we need to go A. They don't do it. They just go B again, kill everyone, and they just do that. And that is kind of funny to watch. But I think I'm not sure how they got to the decision or the mental place where they're like, okay, we can just play like bullshit CS and win. Like, when did that occur to them? That is my biggest question about Liquid, because obviously they're pretty good.
Yes, it's confidence based, but I wouldn't call it bullshit. I think it's just the way that like the best teams in the world can kind of like play around with everybody by doing basically that, like just hitting the same side 10 times in a row, because the other team's just at some point they're gonna start thinking surely they're gonna go A at some point. Like they can't go B again, so they're not gonna overstack B, and then they realize, oh fuck, they're hitting B again. Or just like it's them also like being able to use the right timings and the right fakes and stuff like that, and just make the other team think that they're not going to do something. But yeah, it's just a lot of things together, I think.
I think that almost every single round that this team plays, they can win. Like, every single round. I don't care what... Like, okay, a 5 Glock round, probably not. But every other round that they play, I think they can win. It doesn't matter the circumstances. When I see them in a 2-on-5 situation, I don't sit there and go, fuck, they've lost this round. I go, they're probably going to win this 2-on-5. Like, they just have, for whatever reason, this innate ability to play off each other so well in all of these scenarios. And you make a mistake and they will punish you. And they'll make a mistake and they'll just hit a stupid headshot. And it's like, well, they should be dead, but lucky their individual skills saved them. So I think it's a combination of like all these factors.
I think it's fun, like trying to figure out how they're going to win these rounds, right? Like, before they happen, you think about, okay, so what will it take for Liquid to win this 205, 2v5, or like a 2v4 where they're hitting a stacked site or something? Like, you're thinking about how are they going to turn this around? Like, because you know they probably will, yeah.
All right, so next part of this is, what can the other teams, so Vitality, Ants, Astralis, I guess Na'Vi, all the top teams in the world who we look towards, what can they possibly do to stop them? Now, this is an interesting answer, because you could look at it from, well, maybe Liquid will be there. Well, actually, before we get stuck into that, this conversation comes up every single time a team is the best, and I fucking hate it, because it just shows how fickle fans are. or at least some people who are just fucking morons. Maybe not all fans, maybe just some fans, and usually the vocal minority of fans. But a bunch of people always come out and they go, "Oh, Liquid are the best and the most like in an era that's not very competitive, and other teams haven't been going." Just shut the fuck up. We said the same thing last time around when Astralis were the best. People were like, "Oh, MIBR are having troubles and FaZe aren't as good as they were. Olaf's not here. You know, they're using Chrome." All this shit comes up every single time. You know, there's a reason that these teams like change rosters and aren't as good as they are because they keep fucking losing to the best team because they want to get a solution to beat the best team. That's why the best team causes the other teams to be shit, not the other way around, right? That's the way it works. We're not going into an era where literally every other Counter-Strike team has gone, well, I'm not really feeling it anymore. Let's just let Liquid be the best, or let's have some roster changes. That'll be fun right now. It's going in and getting destroyed by the same team time and time again, or losing to an upset team, or having your confidence broken somewhere that makes those teams shit. Because they're not just shit. They're shit compared to the best team. Well, the best team's the best because they keep winning. That's how the concept works, ladies and gentlemen. So next fucking moron I see making a thread like that, I'm going at ya. I'm fucking going at you. Anyway, sorry guys. Let's get back on point.
I think you already did, but okay.
Point is,
what you said is what I think will have to happen. Like roster changes will have to happen for anyone to overcome them. Because with maybe Astralis has a team that can, but obviously they didn't play that much, and a lot of question marks around them. But the other teams like ENCE obviously can't beat Liquid. That is just like this ENCE lineup will not be better than Liquid. Just
Vitality, the same thing. I think if we can say also at this point. Although with Vitality, I feel like we have some sort of a topic later where we're going to get to them, or at least some of the later tournaments. Maybe we don't. I don't remember.
I think this is the topic where you talk about Vitality.
Well, I'm going to talk about Vitality then. Obviously, that was the argument of they've been really busy. They like this last month or so. They barely I talked to Alex. They barely had any time to practice at all. Like they basically didn't practice for an entire month outside of maybe like some like warm up practices that they have in before their matches. So it's kind of hard to keep up and just to refresh some of your stuff when you can't really practice, right? Like you can do all the theory you want, but you're never going to be able to try to actually use it in practice until you try it in actual tournaments, which is obviously kind of a double-edged sword. So yeah, with Vitality, there's that argument, but at the same time, like when you look at that lineup, there's too many question marks, like from round to round. Like Apex is going to overpeak something a couple of times a match at least. Like RPK is going to miss like a shot that he shouldn't. That like a top team or like a player in the best team in the world shouldn't miss, and stuff like that. And whatever, Alex had those moments before as well. I don't think I've said this before. I'm done criticizing Alex because like at some point he had a really bad performance, but since then he's just been proving me wrong time and time again. So for the time being, I'm done criticizing the guy. And no matter how good ZywOo is, he's never going to be able to consistently just like beat Liquid on his own, basically, or just like take them over the edge against a team like Liquid. So that's the reason why I feel like Vitality are never going to be the best team in the world in general, and especially against somebody like Liquid who's just been so dominant.
All right, so I think here, right, this would be a fun thing for everybody at home. Because Counter-Strike teams all get together at different points, you want to have like a hive mind of learning, right? What Liquid have is ideal. They had 4 players who'd all been playing together for a decent period of time, and they'd experienced a lot, and they were on the same page. They were kind of just missing the last piece of the puzzle, which was Stewie. But Stewie already was playing that type of Counter-Strike anyway. That's how he liked to play Counter-Strike. That's the shit he grew up in. So plugging him in there is them putting their foot all the way down to the gas. But if we started every single year with every single team who like, let's wipe all their knowledge and then we'll start like of team knowledge and we'll start again. Everyone's starting at the same starting point. Right now, this race we're doing is really staggered. Everyone is starting at different starting points. So when you consider that, like a team like Vitality, who has only climbed to this point in a short period of time, realistically, probably don't have enough learning, right, to beat them. Because the more they learn, then the better they can be in certain scenarios. But they can't catch up because Liquid is still constantly learning. So unless Liquid shoot themselves in the foot, a team like Vitality, in my mind, unless they make a personnel change, probably won't be able to catch up with a team like Liquid. But so Astralis, for example, they have the acquired learning of when they were the best. They have this acquired learning of when they're not winning, and they know the adjustments that they probably should make within their gameplay to beat Liquid. So I think a team like Astralis, it's possible. I think ENCE probably needs a roster change. I think Vitality needs more consistency. Na'Vi, we don't know. We haven't really seen a lot from them just yet. They need more time. But they were doing that. They had, okay, well, we have this 5 and we get this close. Okay, if we change one more member, how much closer can we get? And that's kind of what we're learning here. So I think it's about calculating the skill of a roster with the experience and possible time that they could have of learning together. That's why Renegades, when they had that boot camp in Europe at the start of the year, came out looking so good, because they had been already playing against that playstyle consistently for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they had constantly learned, and it was so fresh because it was there every day. That was their routine. So I think, for these teams, it's just going to be a factor of time. They're going to need some, unless Liquid fuck themselves, and that's in my opinion the only way. I hope it gets competitive to the point of where they're not winning every final, but I think that Astralis at the moment are the only team who I think has what it takes to beat them.
I feel like I'm going to throw a name out there. It's probably going to be a little bit maybe crazy, but I'm going to throw Mousesports out there into that mix, just maybe like a year from now. Like not right now, maybe not at this exact point, but as long as Chris J keeps being like, as in fact was he has been with this Mousesports team, I feel like Mousesports is another one in that sort of discussion, as long as they just keep getting that experience in, because like we know how just insane can all those 3 youngsters be, and with Chris J being at that level as well a lot of the time, like that lineup could definitely go up there as well. It's just probably not going to happen with any time this year, or maybe like early next year or something like that. They're just going to need more time, but I think they have the potential to get there too.
I definitely can see it like as a once-off this year, that they could beat them in like a semi-final or a final or something along those lines. So they could do it. Like those peaks you're talking about are there. It's just like the consistency is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We used to have eras of Counter-Strike where it wasn't consistent, which is fine. But at the moment, what we're like, to dethrone the current kings, you need to be consistent. That's why we were so hesitant.
That's what I'm saying. Like, not right now. I can't see it happening consistently like within the next 6 months. Like, it's going to take time. I just think they don't need to change lineups in order to get there. They just need to actually some more playtime.
To be honest, like talking about consistently dethroning, like at the moment, no one is even like getting a one-off win off of them. So that would also be a good starting point for someone to just like, the last loss was Summit, right? From Vitality. That's the last time they lost. So GG.
And there's also the best of one to North.
Yeah, best of one to North. And,
that's basically it in the past 7 tournaments that they lost. They lost to Vitality, and then they lost to North, the best of one. That's it. For what, three and a half months now or something? 3 months?
A problem that everyone else has now is that they also ride this wave of confidence. Like, I have never seen NAF so candid in every aspect. It hasn't just changed like his on-camera persona. Like, talking to NAF, he's like much more outgoing now. Like, Stewie has always been very outgoing, but NAF like much more outgoing and talkative. The same with all of them, right? Like, this has changed. This run, or Stewie coming in, or however you want to quantify it, has changed their mentality from, like, I don't want to say humble, because I think like most competitors aren't humble unless it's like real cultural, but like they've gone from whatever they are, I can't think of a good word for it right now, to like fucking animals for this shit. They are like freaks of nature about winning now, right? And they just want to fuck everybody up. And that's the best bit. That's the whole thing that we want to do here, right? It's just fuck everyone else up. That's why we play Counter-Strike, to show that you're better.
This is something that I tweeted about, actually. I just love, every time we have like a dominant team like this, I love how cocky they are. I love how they know how good they are. I love how they show that. Even though it's very subtle a lot of the time, like even with Astralis and stuff like that, like you can see like when ZipX clutches a 1v4, he just has that little smile, like that knowing smile, that, yeah, I can do that pretty consistently, So I just love that part about Counter-Strike, man. Like, whenever somebody dominates as much as a Liquid has or like an Astralis has, like they just have that aura around them that you can just tell from like every time that you talk to them about CS or whatever, like you can just tell that they have that. It's just so very subtle, and you just pick up a lot of these hints. I love that, honestly.
Also find it pretty funny and pretty worrying for the rest of the teams that everyone's they're just giving them so much credit recently. Alex with that interview, among other, you see on Twitter all the time people saying, "Oh, you guys are so good, you're so good." It's like stop hyping. Like you're literally playing against them 2 weeks from now. Why are you telling them they are so good? Just stop doing that. You can be respectful, say, okay, they're the best now, whatever. You don't have to literally be up their asses all the time saying they're the best team, they're so good, you can't do anything. It's just like their ego is and their confidence is so high right now after winning 6 big tournaments in a row. You don't need to add to that as a competitor, as their enemy in the game, right?
Yeah, because you're actually ruining your own mindset by doing that, right? Like if you already go into that game thinking that you can't beat them, then you're going to have that mindset even if it's subconscious in the game. Another thing definitely don't do is definitely don't make a statement like, I can fuck them up, right? Because if you make that statement, they're going to take that as a, oh, really? Because if you give them extra hunger in a game, that's when they're going to go even more. Like I can imagine if I was as good as some of those players and somebody who like thought they're on my level said some shit, and I was already the best. That's the extra hunger I needed just to go, well, I probably wasn't going to watch your demos because I was already going to beat you anyway. But now I'm going to make you feel like a piece of shit and make sure you don't get any kills. Like me as a competitor, that's what I would do if somebody was talking shit about it. I would like learn all their tendencies, all their spots. I would just fuck them up. Like, and then you're not talking shit again, are you? Like that's where I would go if I was Liquid. Just
the conflict situation, basically.
Yeah.
Like, so you gotta be careful. Talking shit until he got burned too many times.
It's a bit of fun, obviously certain heals are better than others, but speaking of heals, do you guys have anything more you want to talk with the whole Liquid scenario?
Not really. I definitely agree with the fact that at this point Astralis are probably the only hard lineup that can take them down. Everybody else would need some lineup changes, 100%.
Yeah. All right. I hope we get that, for the tail end of the year. Like the best of last year going up against the best of this year in a consistent battle would be nice to see. Anyway,
I just want Cold Zero and Nico to team up, get Sunny in there, and get 2 new players, and just like show us what you can do. I just love these like Yuris.
Anything's possible after the
Wet Dream / HLTV4.
Yeah, exactly.
All-star lineups.
All right. Next topic. What changes should the Swedes make? Now, Fnatic, for those of you who aren't aware, we're going to talk more about the minors later, but they came 4th place at the European minor, which means that they didn't even have an opportunity to play in the play-in. The teams who made it through were Mouse Sports, Crazy, and then obviously North went to play in the play-in, and then Fnatic didn't have an opportunity. So we don't need to specifically just talk about Fnatic. Like we'll focus on them first, but our top 3 we're doing next, guys. We're going to be talking about takeaways from the minor, I believe. So we can maybe throw some other things in there. So let's start talking about Fnatic. Then we'll go on to Swedish Counter-Strike as a whole, and then we'll end bleeding into the top 3 point. So is everyone in agreement that changes have to be made? Like, do we all think? Let's do Do you guys think changes have to be made?
We can do a quick
Okay. You were quick to answer that, Striker, so give it a crack.
Well, I mean, there's no question that there have to be some changes. I'm not entirely sure what they can be, though, because obviously at this point, like I'm guessing we're getting to a point where Golden will be in Sweden and will be in an IP, as long as kind of my theory stays that he's just there. He's not there only as a stand-in for the major, but from just to stay there longer. So that's one of them that just has to come through. I think for an IP to finally solve their like leadership issues. I don't necessarily agree with you. I'm guessing you're going to go there because you've already talked about Golden like returning to Sweden like several times on the podcast. I don't necessarily agree that Golden is the savior or anything, but I just think it's a good first step at least, because at this point there's just nobody else. If you want to stay Swedish, there's nobody else that can game lead. So that's definitely the first step towards it, at least in an IP. In Fnatic, it's hard as fuck, man. Like I would start with Twist probably, because he's just doesn't seem to cut it in terms of like individual confidence or just the way that he plays. You can tell that he's just not cut out of the same cloth as like a JW who just has so much confidence in himself, even though he's like not doing so well. So I feel like that's the first step. And in terms of leadership, I don't know. I'm always torn about Exist, just because whenever I talk to anybody, they say how good he is and stuff like that. But then again, you don't really see it that much in the game, at least not from the play style that he puts into the team. So I'm not sure what exactly he brings to teams that people like to like about him so much. At least the people that play with him. So I'm not sure about that, but I think Twist at least is also a good first step.
So, Prof, just from like strikers mentioning names here, for you, why do you think, other than results, like more gameplay related stuff, why do you think Fnatic should make a change? Like, what is it about them that doesn't work in your opinion?
I'm not sure I mean, there's obviously the in-game leading and just a general approach to the game, classic exist style of play. But at the same time, I feel like it's some weird individual form issues that are happening. I mean, even talking to JW at the minor before they went out, obviously, he was saying how they love to play with each other as the classic like Swedish style. I like this guy, he likes me, he likes this guy, so we love to play together. So that side is working. So they're not like in a beef or something that happened a year ago with the whole Flusha Golden situation. But players are simply playing at different times. Players are playing below their normal level. Like here at the minor, Crims was playing pretty poorly, while like the first 3 months of the year and last year he was insane. So now his form dips just like as JW's goes up, and then Brolan doesn't really look that exciting. Then Twist is absolutely not impressive most of the time. But the last game that they played, what was that? That was the crazy game.
Crazy,
right?
no?
Twist was top frag. He was the best player there. So just for me, it seems like the team isn't on the level that it has to be. I have no idea why, and I think those things only change with the roster change. Like you don't really reinvent the team. They've been together since like late October, early November, something like that, when they brought in Brolan. They had some good parts, and they have now the last 2 months have been pretty underwhelming. And I think you don't really bounce back from that with some like magic potion or something. It's most likely going to be solved by a roster change. Like that's the only way people solve these kind of roster issues.
So
also get knock in there.
Yeah, you think? Well, here's the thing.
So
right?
there are two options. Like you can either go Swedish or you could go international. That's also an option. I think.
Of course.
I think though, from what I've heard from like Swedes in the past, they like value their style of communicating quite highly. I don't know if you guys ever listened to Swedish communication, but it's always very like monotone.
Really simple.
Yeah, and like they don't get overly crazy. Like English communication, I think it's just the language. I think the language just fucks everything, because all English teams comm really badly compared to a lot of the European teams when I listen to like just the amount of words spoken. So maybe if they do that, they might lose some stuff communication wise. Let's do this. Let's abolish every single Swedish team, and every single Swedish player who's on in another team at the moment is free. Every single body from Sweden is free right now. We've had this discussion a couple of times. We actually probably talked about it a few months ago. But let's do it again, and let's see if things have changed over time. So every single player is at your disposal right now. Who is the team you're building, Striker?
Okay. I mean, I'm going to start with Rez just because I think he's a good baseline and like a middle point between young talent and like experienced player. He's been around for long enough, and I feel like he can be better than he is now, at least consistency wise, if he has a better team around him. So I'm going to start with him. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sold about Plopsky at this point. I'm just looking at an IP and just like trying to figure out like which pieces from which team could work together. I'm not totally sold on Plopsky at this point because we just haven't seen enough from him at the top level. So it's kind of hard to see that. But I feel like Nip had to see something in him to pick him up, right? Like they wouldn't have just picked up somebody just because he's a youngster who just frags well, right? So
I mean, NIP doesn't have the greatest track record of picking up players. Like the Biff they had. Okay, Michaelina wasn't that bad, but obviously had to go then. Drake,
I mean, Crims is a pretty obvious one. So okay, Rest Crims. I'm gonna wait about Plopsky. Maybe I'll get there for like a fifth player or something.
No, I'll let you throw a sixth on the end if you want, just so you can have a player to rotate.
I'd still keep on Brolan because I think he has the potential. I don't think he has the right role for himself in Fnatic though. I feel like he could work with a little bit more people for playing for him. rather than the other way around, because I feel like at this point he's not in that, particularly in that role. So Crims, Brolin, Rez. Let's see. We have pretty passive players at this point, so we kind of need somebody. I guess Forrest is still a good like one of those more experienced people. I would still believe in him being able to stay like around that top 10 level form for them to actually improve and not just like shit the bed every now and again. So I'm gonna give him a chance as well. Who am I missing? I'm missing an in-game leader. That's the problem.
Classic problem.
That's the problem.
So what do you got? You got Hampus, you got fucking Golden,
you got Exist.
Potential
Flusher. If you want to say Flusher, you can say Flusher.
I don't like the Flush idea because like he's been gone for a while now, and he's just like such an unknown quantity, especially as an in-game leader. Like we've heard from him several times that he doesn't really want to in-game lead, and then he comes back to it. Then I don't believe in that prospect at all. So I just fucking default to Golden, honestly. Like it's just so hard to get anybody else.
So
the team is so shit.
Rez, Crims, Forest, Golden.
I'm missing. Okay, instead of Popsky, I'm gonna go with Knock because of the up.
There you go.
So
okay.
You have like 7 players, literally.
No, named Crims,
Rez, Knock, Crims, Brolin, and Golden. Is that it? Golden. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So you got rid of Forest, you added Knock.
Oh shit! No. I didn't get rid of Knock. I got rid of Forest. Then I guess I got rid of Forest.
Okay. So there we go. Your team, Prof.
Wait, I did say 6 people. Yeah, that's right. Fuck.
So Rez, obvious, pretty good player overall. JW, aggressive player, been playing pretty well since the last couple of months. Since seems he has like the motivation back to play. Knock as the opper, obvious, but missing potentially the best opper in Sweden. I take Brolin because I think as a youngster plays pretty well. Like didn't choke too much or anything. Seems to have like a decent upward trajectory, and then Flusha as the in-game leader. And my
what was the whole
70.
Thing? I missed the second player, I think.
Rez, JW, Knock,
JW,
Brolin, Flusha.
I'm almost surprised about JW.
And this is where I say, fuck all the old people, and this is the team. Because right now, like I'm just saying, rip the walls down and start again. Because I don't want these guys to continue limping through. I reckon we do this. Rez, Nork, Hampus, Brolin, and Crims. Right? We've all have solutions here which could all be possibly good. I think all of them are better than the current teams.
I understand.
Well, Crims is in there because Crims is still, like, I haven't checked his stats recently.
He's still very, very good.
But Crims does his job.
I'm just worried about Crims after this, like his whole emo tweets after this event have been pretty.
No, he's had those before.
I need a break,
never really...
whatever the fuck. Like if he's playing well, then like have him inside in the team definitely. But
he's only 25, you know. Like even though it feels like he's been with us forever, he's only 25.
JW is 24.
Yeah, but Olaf's 27. You know, like, and people are saying like, let's get
Olaf. Like the Olaf.
I forgot about Olaf.
Like I'm not, and I don't agree with that. Either. Like, I think Olaf is someone who needs to prove himself again before we can start talking about him as a like any kind of a savior of the Swedish scene or whatever. He can come into a team and be like a good element to a team, but he's not going to be turning around a sinking ship by his own. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so we've all agreed that Swedish Counter-Strike needs a change, and
big one too.
Yeah, so I think because obviously the major for them, they're playing with all this mess around stuff. Hopefully we see some changes after the major. Whether we do, whether we don't, only time will tell. But we're going to move on to our top 3, which is going to be the takeaways from the minor. So we're going to do a top 3 here, which will succinctly help us be able to explore what we saw and what we enjoyed. And it's going to be from 3 different perspectives. So does anybody want to start this one? Anybody interested in starting this one? If not, I can do it.
Partially. Okay.
Why are we doing 3 different? Aren't we doing just like one top 3?
Well, we're here now, so let's do this.
One.
Let's do our top 3s, and then what we'll do is we'll be able to talk through why they were standout things to us, right? Because we're gonna have a lot to cover with the minors anyway, and we're all gonna have different takes on it. So mine's gonna be really quick. I was doing Chicago when the first 2 minors were on, so I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of the Counter-Strike.
I had a hard time watching too.
Yeah, so mine are going to be more, unfortunately, around the two less interesting minors of the Asian minor and the CIS minor. Okay. Whew. Number three, takeaways from the minor. Number three, MVP will never be a good team. That's number three. Number two, fuck. I liked what I saw from Dream Eaters. And number one, it's not really a takeaway from the minor, but Jerry's my boy. And that's my three. That's my three.
You've been converted into a Jerry fan.
What was the second one?
The second one was Dream Eaters were I thought they were okay. Like I didn't think they were bad. But yeah, Jerry's interviews were really good, right? Because
my boy Jerry,
he doesn't give a fuck about the camera, right? Like he was just speaking what he truly thought, because the filter that we have when you probably think and talk in your native language is probably different from the filter when he's thinking in Russian and the words are coming out. He hasn't been able to filter them, right? He's so new to the language. Like obviously he speaks it well for somebody who, isn't a native English speaker, but that filter probably doesn't exist just yet. Anyway, we'll get into the deep stuff of it more later. All right, Striker, we'll just go in order of the screen. What are your top three takeaways?
Trying to order some of them, because I got two. I got crazy kind of delivering, because I wasn't entirely sure. I knew that they were capable of it. I just wasn't sure that they would, just because of North and Fnatic being that mix. It was always kind of like a toss-up on whether they were going to be able to break through that. I'm gonna go with
kind of a They were like two gatekeepers, Fnatic and North. And it's beating both of them is a pretty big testament that this team can do pretty good damage in best of threes, right? In the playoffs, it's an important match. Nothing can be taken away from those games. Definitely, I think that's also a pretty big one for me. Just seeing them finally having like a big achievement. Like they have been so close for so long to doing something, and then every time they kind of fuck up. They fuck up the qualifier for New York, right? They lose to G2 in the final. Then they play the MDL, they go 17-0. Then they lose in the first round of the playoffs, so they can't even go for the third place decider. And that is after they do a massive boot camp, go to DreamHack, then lose in DreamHack to Ancient, which they had like a 14-5 lead on the second map, and then they lost, whatever the fuck, something like that. So a lot of heartbreak for them, and then now they finally managed to get to the major. And they also, the last major, at the minor, they lost to Vitality and ENCE. That's some kind of a bullshit when you think about what Vitality and ENCE are for the last 6 months. Like you literally have to beat the two top 5 teams. I mean, before they became top 5, but they are on that trajectory to become one, to get to the first stage of the major. That's tough, man.
You're giving me a lot of time with this. I managed to finish up my top 3 now. Thank you for the intermission.
No, I had to.
Okay, so my second one is going to be just CIS Counter-Strike will never be reasonable, because like we've seen this time and time again at CIS minors. Like they are just crazy, and they're never gonna. I don't think they're ever gonna come back from that. Not locally. Like we see teams like Navi, completely going another direction and stuff like that, just being very, very slow and methodical. None of the rest of the CIS is that way, and it's never going to be. So that's my second one. And then the first one is that Dick Stacy just wants to suck Malta's dick.
Interesting takeaway. All right, and Prof, what's your top 3?
No, okay, I'm gonna go reasonable. I'm just gonna swap that. I'm gonna go with Asian CS is massively behind, and they're probably not gonna catch up in the next few years.
They won't. There's no way Asian Counter-Strike can catch up until we get a new game.
Yeah, probably it's not. Pretty. I've been doing actually some research about majors and stuff like that. I have to go back and check, but the first Asian team that went to a major, the top 16 of a major, is literally Tyloo last year.
Yeah, face it. Yeah.
And then even talking about the first qualifiers for Asia were in 2015, 2.5 years into anything. And that were teams that didn't even make it because of visa issues, like Mongols and stuff like that. So when you think about it that way, they really are behind 2.5 years just from where we started. And when you take in all of the competition and all of the exposure that like European and NA teams have, it's very hard. But I don't know. It's rough for them, definitely. My top three.
Okay.
If that is number one, C Power from Force.
Yep.
Is insane. That guy is legit.
Hold up, I just want to call someone out before you continue. Sam Royal 420. Listen to the words coming out of the individuals' mouths. If you want to be in the podcast and have an opinion, we're talking about them making top 8 at a major. You dumb fuck. The first major a team from the region of Asia/Oceania went to was actually the second major ever. So shut the fuck up. You're wrong. Shut up. Anyway, sorry, Prof.
What are we talking about? Other takeaways. I don't know. The NA one was pretty expected. I guess maybe United a bit underwhelming. Other than that, Big was already dead. We knew that. Mouse Sports. I didn't think about the rest. What do we have? The Brazilian, Asian. I have no idea. You covered most of it.
Like I only saw 2 of the minors like very well. Like I saw CS and Asia. I mean, the 2 minors that I didn't really.
The second one is like North is still underwhelming for me. I think that's a second one. I can go into more details later. And what else? What else was good?
Sorry, there was just some explosions outside. Not actual explosions. I think it was fireworks. But anyway, I'm here.
Other than that, I don't know. I think the only other takeaway is that we still need to rework the way the minors work, just because I feel like it's still kind of bullshit to certain regions in the way the slots are being distributed.
Yeah, I think last time round, Vici making sure North couldn't get there. When that whole nonsense happened, that was like exciting because it's what we expected. But not having Fnatic, but having some of these other teams kind of sucks a bit. I think a solution you could do for this would be if you have like the third place team from the minors all come and do their thing, but also Europe gets third and fourth place. Like that's how much further ahead Europe is than everyone else, right? I think Europe should get third and fourth place. And then they play. I don't care how they work the format out. Fucking work it out. But Europe should get opportunity for their third and fourth place teams to both have an opportunity because they're better.
Is that coming from you?
Yeah.
I feel like I heard some like bangs and I wasn't sure where it was coming from.
I can't really see. It's a bit of
it was just very dull, and I was thinking that was like downstairs in my house, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I opened the blinds. I got a little bit worried. But so here's the top 3. I can tell you all voting. Doesn't really matter. We're going to talk about all of these or most of these topics in depth anyway. I think that we have a bit of an overlap with your first one, Striker, and my third one. Because the same thing. I think Tyloo are the only region I think who have enough resources and already have enough exposure to get enough experience under their belt. Like they already have enough experience that they should be able to engineer something. Or they should be able to groom and get the best players. But from what I understand, Excurate being kicked from Tyloo was not up to Tyloo. It wasn't up to the team. It wasn't up to Bente. It wasn't up to anybody. The organization just decided, we're getting rid of him. This is the roster change we're going to make, as far as I'm aware. So Tyloo, unless they just go out and groom and grab all of the best players and then try and make a project like that, they're never going to have the proper grasp of Counter-Strike. If you can't make it work with Jonta as your coach, obviously language barrier, to play modern CS, you're going to have a bit of an issue. But yeah, I think Asian Counter-Strike is... Watching MVP, bro, MVP looks like they've copied someone's homework. Like, the fuck is happening? Are we being bombed? Anyway, fuck it. I think MVP playing Counter-Strike, right? Like, I can see that Zeta, he's got an idea of what to do. Zion, he sometimes knows what to do. But the rest of them look like they're following, like, a recipe, but they don't understand what they're making. Like, they're not even hungry, right? They don't even need to eat, but they're out here they're in the kitchen, and they're trying to make something work. These guys, right, here's the thing. for you guys who don't understand. In Korea, you play StarCraft, you play Overwatch, you play League of Legends, and for some reason, they like fucking PUBG. But you know what you don't play? You don't play fucking Counter-Strike. So culturally speaking, Counter-Strike is not a game that they have the mentality of cutthroat, like kill everybody, like that kind of thing. That's why hearing the Koreans yell, I was talking to Smix, Sue, she's Korean, she's a Korean American. And she was like, yeah, these guys yelling, that's so like out of character for Koreans. They don't do that. So I don't think that Korean CS will ever have the people who have the right mentality to play it, because you need to be a cunt to play Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is Counter-Strike is the jocks game, right? Counter-Strike is the esport where we talk shit, like Call of Duty do it, but they're playing with consoles, so whatever. But we're like the game which everybody wants to watch because of how like exciting it is after every round, the reactions. Like if you think about the way that INTZ reacted after they won that 15-4 comeback about Dream Eaters, that was fucking sick. Yeah. That's the stuff that I love, man. So yeah, I think Asian Counter-Strike is a little bit fucky. What else? Did anyone else have a point they wanted to discuss a little bit more?
I agree with the MVP thing. Like they've been just pretty hyped for a pretty long while from these hipster analysts, I could call them. Just like people that like to be of a different opinion on Twitter and stuff like that. I'm probably one of them most of the time, but
I think they have good strats.
Hipster prof.
I think they have good strats and they have good understanding of certain things. Like Nuke, they have good strats and they have good rotations, but they don't have a good understanding. What the fuck is going on in my house? I swear to God, if I have to go here...
The sounds coming from you keep like confusing me so hard. Like I've
got yelling and some banging.
Exactly.
Well, the yelling would have been Alex. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Anyway, yeah. I think that they have ideas that are good. They just don't have good execution. Dream Eater is one. I guess we could have the tie in there with XC Power. Him on the AWP. He is an interesting character. If you read the Dream Eater's interview with Jerry, I think he makes mention of something.
The Force interview.
Yeah, is that where he makes mention of like having to tell Jerry, like manage his ego is basically the way that I read it, right? Having to manage his ego because he will overestimate, I forget the exact wording, his contribution to a win or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
like, I forget the wording, but like I thought that from somebody like as young as Jerry, like I think like that is such a cool mindset to have, like to think, oh, I need to, manage this guy's expectations of what, because they have a very good understanding of how to play with each other. Not Dream Eaters, Fours, I think. Like in my opinion, watching them, they like have a legit style of Counter-Strike, and I thought they were pretty good to watch. I was very surprised. Same with Dream Eaters, but Dream Eaters, bro, if they lost that series, I would have probably cried for them. That was
rough. Yeah, that's true. But they were a big surprise to me. It's not like they play particularly legit or anything. It was just I didn't think they had even an outside chance to make that top two.
The thing is, like,
they did. So
that week when I wasn't on the show, and 1 week, 3-4 months ago, I was casting like a tier 4 online CS league, and teams like Simon, Dream Eaters were there. So I watched a lot of these CIS teams, and you can see that out of all of them, Dream Eaters are the only team that play something that looks like Counter-Strike, and the other teams are like doing some stuff. Like they're doing stuff. Like someone's throwing a molly, someone's running through the molly, whatever. Dream Eaters are playing like some decent stuff, but at the same time, they don't have like a very good individual player. Like Simon have Ramzik, who's pretty insane. He's like a pretty good individual player. Dream Eaters just have like a decent understanding of CS, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So I kind of expected them to maybe be able to do something, but beating Spirit was not what I expected. Like that was the
Spirit. That was a big shit.
Yeah.
For the players,
that's actually true. We actually completely forgot about Spirit then.
Just for those people who aren't aware, I should know the Spirit roster off by heart. I was trying to just search it. It's Chopper. Yeah, I just balance Chopper, Someday Young. You've got fucking
Sotvik.
Yeah, and Coldy.
Yeah.
And they look like they were pretending.
And Chopper,
they look like
imposters.
Since
recently.
Yeah.
They look like, oh, this is what we're meant to do, so let's try and do it. But like, it just doesn't work. Because if you remember Vega Squadron, like when Chopper was on the team, they would have rounds where Two people are rushing B apps on Mirage. Chopper's getting ready to limp out of apps. They've got a guy AWPing middle on his own with no smokes, and then they have a guy like baiting A ramp, and then they'd win those rounds, and you'd be like, oh, okay. And then you watch this team, and I just didn't quite understand what was going on. But anyway, are we done with the minors? We good with it? We're feeling good.
What do we have?
Yeah, there's
I guess North. We had a bit of a discussion in Discord about it the other day.
Also, no chance were a surprise to me. They did a lot better than I would have thought.
I didn't see the stats for them. How did Thomas play? Because he's one that interests me as an individual. I think that
it was like Zen and then Sticko.
Okay.
Thomas had like one or two shit maps, and then the rest, something like that. Zen was like mega carrying that Vertigo game. He destroyed like 30-10 on Vertigo against
He's
Mouse.
Finnish, right?
Yeah. He's the ex-Penta player.
Curious with names like his and fucking Sunny floating around, right? And they're able to do that kind of stuff. There's obviously a reason they're not in Ents. We know that, but like those are some curious. A Crystal is always there. Like I think this is like Crystal's perpetual hell, right? Is the fact that this is going to be like the level. I'm not saying these guys aren't good because they've done a good job as a team to bring this project together. But you know, as soon as there's a chance for something else, you know who's getting the fucking chop first. Unfortunately,
that's the thing. Like this is the best Crystal can be.
Yeah.
Literally, if they go further, if they break into the top 30, that is bad for Crystal because he's just going to get kicked. It happens every time. Like they're gonna get snappy or some shit. I don't know. And so for Crystal, it's best to like chill around like top 40. At least he has a team. I'm joking. Like this sucks because he doesn't even have a fucking salary, so he has to coach Big's academy team to get something, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
It's a rough situation for sure.
People might want us to talk a bit about North. They just seem underwhelming, don't they?
I still don't like the fact that Valda is in game leading. It's not only because of his performance, because I feel like Kirby has, at least from what I saw, has been doing a pretty good job, like kind of making up for him. At least in what I saw, I haven't actually looked through all the tournaments that they played lately, especially the minor, because I was in Chicago as well. But generally, not because of that, but just because their T sides have not been looking good. Prop, you definitely mentioned this a couple of times from watching them.
Yeah, I mean, there are some points where some things look better, then after that you look at them and they're doing like this game against MVP, one anti-eco tilted me so much. Like they lose one player, okay, that happens in an anti-eco. So they're 4v5 Inferno T side. And what they do is like they're lingering towards Banana, then 3 of them pull back and one guy. Meanwhile, actually one guy, while 4 are Banana, 3 on Banana, Kirby just walks out of apps on his own with a rifle and gets like double dinked by a USP that's from an angle that he's not looking at even. So it's like literally a free kill. So now they're at 3v5. And now the 2 guys from Banana go towards mid and a guy goes solo into the B-bomb site where 2 players are in a crossfire. But somehow MVP literally counter that by playing super stupid themselves and lose the round. And it was like, and 10 seconds left when 2 players are like rapping towards the A-bomb site. It was an absolute mess around, but they still won because MVP is whatever. I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I remember, and there's a lot of scenarios. Maybe they're not giving 100% because they're versing MVP, which I can understand. But maybe this could be a theory. When MSL was in-game leader for these players for such a long period of time, I really think that he would have been the type of in-game leader that would have told everybody what to do all the time.
I mean, he was like that. I think that's a fact.
Yeah, so the decision-making that these players probably once had is now gone. I think that they are probably just sitting there waiting for Volder to make a call. No one, looking at those players, none of them really seem like they would vocally step up too much within the team. I think if I were to pick, I'd say Gade would be the next in line to actually offer up a suggestion.
It was I'm going to bring up an interesting talk that I had with Snappy at ESG Tour, just a while back now. It's a year and a half ago in Mykonos, which was basically that at the time he was obviously still with Heroic, as was Yuki. At the time, he was trying to get Yugi to have more of a voice and just like tell people what to do when he's like taking different angles. Like basically, like whenever he's changing positions between rounds, like he's gonna tell the guy who's who he's taking over for, where to go and what to do, basically. Like he wanted Yugi to kind of order people around based on how he's opting, right? So it's kind of surprising that he hasn't really grown into that role, at least like from what you're saying. I haven't had the chance to sit behind them or anything lately, so I can't be sure about like the communication between them, and obviously I don't understand Danish anyway, so it would have been hard for me to gauge. But still, it's that's one thing that I was expecting Yugi like to have that next step after that talk with Snappy, and I guess that hasn't happened.
Yeah, well, I think we'll move off this topic because we could go all night talking about things to the minors, but this is one that was on the front page of Reddit recently. We're going to be talking about the prize pools, and we can all thank Mr. Doc Disrespect for his comments. I didn't even listen to what he said, but somebody told me the sentiment. It basically was that obviously this Fortnite event happened, $30 million, all this kind of stuff, but that Counter-Strike should have events of this grandeur. Before we get too far, because this is a multi-layered topic, Fortnite is probably the biggest game in the world. It's probably generated more money than what the majority of other titles ever have. I don't know. I'm spouting out of my ass. I have no idea. But that game just seems like it's that big of a phenomenon. It's not an esport. It's actually, fuck it, let's try that again. It's not a competitive esport. It might be an esport. It might be a video game that people play professionally. But it's not a competitive pursuit of a video game with consistency of results. Now, Fortnite players would probably argue with me, and they'd say, no, but I can win all these games. You know, da, da, da. The game doesn't even have modes that you could even say are close to the semblance of anything that a Counter-Strike game, a Dota game, a League of Legends game, a StarCraft game, anything that people consider to be the upper echelon of titles. And the reason that these games last the test of time is because it's basically grown from the ground up. League of Legends is a clone of Dota. Dota was a mod on fucking, Warcraft 3. So this was built by the community. StarCraft was shaped heavily by Asia, like by Korea and the way that they wanted to play the game in the early days. That was kind of just done by Korea. Korea are the ones who put on the whole fanfare for StarCraft, right? They did all that. All those crazy productions was Korea. Had nothing to do with,
Blizzard, right?
Yeah. So, well, actually, I don't know if that's factually correct. So someone check that anyway. But Counter-Strike, a mod as well, but it's been around forever. All these things, when you think about them, have grown from the love of them. Fortnite, as much as, I'll be honest here, I've played Fortnite. I don't mind it. It's a fun game. It is a fun game. I enjoy playing Fortnite. I haven't played it in a while, but when I used to play it, it was a bit of fun. I just don't think it's ever can be put on the same pedestal as a Counter-Strike, as a StarCraft. Maybe if it lasts for 20 years and they make it competitive and viewable, and we don't have 40 people left in the last circle and it's fucking moving and people are going through these rift portals.
Hard as all to watch, right?
Yeah, like if we had games that, if it eventually shakes its way out and it's cool, that's great. That's good for everybody. It's more exposure. It's all this stuff. This is fantastic. But this nature of thinking like Counter-Strike needs a $30 million prize pool, like what TI has with Dota and all that kind of stuff, you guys don't understand what that issue has actually caused within the Dota scene. Maybe this has been several years for them trying to juggle with their format to get it back to something so teams actually attend other events other than the international, right? A lot of stuff has had to change within the Dota world. There are people who genuinely think, like Dota players, who think that the Counter-Strike format is better. Like, that's like people who play and work in Dota think that the Counter-Strike format of majors is better. Like those kind of things you guys need to keep in mind here. Now, I don't want prize money. Oh, and here's one last thing. Counter-Strike players, as far as I'm aware and what I've been told, earn more money as a salary than what most other esports players do, especially of like counterparts if I were to compare to Dota. So these are all factors you guys have to consider. Anyway, someone steer this conversation because I lost my fucking track.
Just one thing. I have one question, right? How does a bigger prize pool help us? In what way?
It just gives us more mainstream media exposure. Which
Exactly.
I don't give a
That's
fuck
what I'm saying.
about.
That's what I'm saying. Like how does that? Why does that make things more exciting?
There's one thing why I also tweeted in a reply to someone on Twitter. The only reason why I also agree with most of what Sponge said. It's like, it's a game, it's okay. It's an esport because it's a competitive game, but is it an really doesn't have the scene, doesn't have a circuit as a competitive title as a football does or something. I don't think that is there yet. Maybe it can be, whatever. But I think the game just is too random to be very exciting as a competitive title. So the issue is, with all of this money, all of these kids are obviously loving Fortnite because it's a very accessible game. The only the negative part is that people will be playing, like kids will be playing Fortnite instead of playing CS. So we won't have these like young prodigies coming into CS, they'll be playing Fortnite. Because some of these guys, just watching them, you can see that they're like mechanically they're skilled. They could obviously bring that into CS, and then the whole other thing about the mentality and the understanding of the game, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But some of these players will never play CS. They just won't. So that's the reason why I think it's not important, but it is a thing that it impacts CS as a game, right? Not having these huge prize pools.
Yeah. Striker, you got anything here from your perspective?
Not particularly. Just that the idea of crowdfunding for prize pools doesn't really help the scene in any way. Basically, like, sure, it helps the players and maybe like brings some level of excitement, like more excitement to some people, knowing that this grand final is for $20 million or whatever. I can understand how that brings a certain level of excitement to some people. Doesn't particularly work for me, but I can understand how it does for other people. But in general, it helps the scene in no way. It's just like putting the players, all the money, the big money into the pockets of players, which obviously like they've earned earned a lot of money. They've earned to have that amount of money or a big amount of money anyway, because they're sacrificing a lot. They're putting a lot of time into this game and just like sacrificing personal lives for it. This is not like a typical 9-to-5 job. Like they obviously have to travel shitloads. So obviously they have to be paid very well. Like that's beyond the point, especially considering how long their careers will probably be. Very few people will make it over like a decade or anything. So with that, it also kind of makes sense that they should earn a lot. But beyond that, like obviously, like if you earn whatever, like a $5 million off one tournament per player, like that's all the money you need for the rest of your life and more, basically.
Yeah.
Like unless you're crazy and you're just gonna smash out on stupid shit, like that you're gonna live off that money for the rest of your life off one tournament. So how does that? Okay, that's a little bit too much in my eyes, and obviously, like from that point on, they can just end their careers, and that's not good for the game. Well, so for the wealth to be a little bit better distributed, it makes a lot more sense, and it just doesn't really help the scene in any tangible way. It doesn't help the product unless there's more money in the back end as well.
You're right. It doesn't help the product, and I think that tweet from ESPN the other day that compared this kid's winnings to like Djokovic's and fucking Tiger Woods and all that kind of shit. That right there is such like an unfair comparison. Like we have. When I say we, I mean our generation of entertainment lovers who love video games being streamed on the internet, on any platform, on any medium of any game. We're going to end up one day in retirement homes and we're all going to be playing video games. That's just the way it's going to be. Like our parents and stuff, they're not there yet. But this is our generation. That's the reality of us when we get old. We will just have retirement homes that are LAN centers and we just sit there and we play video games all day. But the generation of people who are looking from the top now down are like ages of my parents, or they're like the 50-60-year-olds of the world. They aren't from the gaming culture. Traditional sports have been around for a long time, so they're used to that, right? So the amount of money and things that you'd spend on those sports is going to be much higher. Esports stuff just looks super inflated, right? And that's the scary thing. Now I think that we went into a shoe store and we bought some shoes, and we bought our shoes that were way too big. And we've been wearing those way too big shoes for a while. And now we've finally grown into our shoes. I think the salaries that people were earning was like well and truly way above where it just got super inflated super quickly, right? You have to think about that explosion of money. It went from when I started playing professionally back in 2008 in Source, in the CGS. I got paid $2,500 a month. When I started playing CSGO professionally for Renegades, I got paid $2,500 a month. All right? Let me give you, that's a long window of time. Within the span of when I started getting paid in CSGO and probably 6 months to a year after that, that's when people are already getting paid $12,000, $14,000 US dollars a month. That's how quickly that grew. Just understand that. That is such a fucking crazy jump from those two things. And the prize money argument, the players, right, can play in tournaments for $250,000, what, like 20 times a year? There's so many tournaments where the prize money is that or more a year. It's fucking absurd. Things that like hurt us and don't allow us to have that is there's no system, there's no structure, right? If we had less events, well, then we could have more prize money. But we have an event almost every weekend. So our prize money is spread out over more events as opposed to just one-off event. How many Fortnite events are you guys seeing? Well, that's what I thought.
Literally. One a year.
Exactly.
And it's like the whole event lasted 5 hours, like 6 games. It's like, it's more or less when you get there, obviously there's a skill factor, but the game as it is, it's kind of a lottery. That's literally, it's kind of bullshit, obviously. Like if you wanted that in CS, have like, equivalent of that would be like a 128 team tournament, best of one all the way, single elimination, random map. And that's it.
Yeah, and we'll give the winner $40 million.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think the thing is, we haven't scaled very well in Counter-Strike. We've been like on a very, very slow increase, and then we fucking exploded, and now we're plateauing, right? If you're like ESL have given away $2 million from the Intel Grand Slam in the last 8 months or 9 months, I forget what month.
Something like that.
That's a lot of money to give out in a short period of time. That's a lot of money, guys. Like I had this discussion with Pimp recently, actually, and I think that prize monies, holy shit. I think that prize money will be more. But I think where we're at right now, what's the need? If people are like, oh, we can crowdfund, we can do this, we can do that, that's cool. I get it. You want to give back to players. Why don't, instead of crowdfunding, why don't we do something for, like we already have stickers. That's the one way that you can fund the teams, right? That's what Valve's thing is. Hey, you support this team, you can physically support them. You can support every single player in that entire tournament if you want. Buy their fucking sticker. That's what you could do. Not off the market. When the stickers roll around, you can crowdfund money for the players. You want to crowdfund more money for Liquid? Is that what you guys want to do? You want to give some more money to Liquid right now? Or you want to give some more money to Astralis that 95% of you people in the community, or at least the vocal community, are hating on now for some unknown reason? Is that what you guys want to do? Because you're just going to change the disparity of wealth, right? If you want to support people for giving up their lives, you can buy the stickers. No one's stopping you from doing that. I think that this will scale. Prize money will scale. But is it stagnant? Like, really think about that. Really think about Intel Grand Slam, what that's offered up, how prize... Aren't StarLadder doing like $500,000 tournaments? Like, isn't that what Shanghai was? No one even talked about the prize money. Even the best teams didn't even go. Like, what are we talking about here? It's got, like, if StarLadder are putting on a tournament with some of the most prize money that we see, WSG rolls around every year. How many teams who have 5 members from their core fucking nation don't sign up for that shit? So you guys have to really, out there who are having this discussion about prize money, use your fucking noggin. Turn your brain on. Think about things objectively. Don't just, jump up and down because the major isn't crowdfunded. Valve, by doing the major, have given us this entire ecosystem, right? They have given us this. They didn't have to do this. They don't have to give any money, but they have. And I think that we'll continue to grow, but we'll grow when we're ready. And right now, things are fine. Players get paid a lot of money. Players get a holiday that's longer than what most... Do you know, in my country, you get 4 weeks off a year. The players are having a 4-week player break right now. They get a 2-week break over Christmas. That's 6 weeks. They already get more break time than what anybody working a job in Australia of a 9-to-5 full-time job gets. Right? We get sick days. We get this.
I mean, they're also gone from home for a lot more than
sure.
a normal paying job, obviously.
Yeah, that obviously they don't get their weekends, all that kind of stuff. I think you can bring all those things, but not every single team is attending every single event, right? Sure. I think the only teams who really make a huge sacrifice to their personal lives are the ones on the circuit consistently, or the ones like Renegades, MIBR, who have literally moved out of their own country, and live somewhere else. I don't think people. I was talking to Gomez about this, and I was like, "How is it in the US?" He's like, "Well, we don't really live anywhere because we're on the circuit." And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like you don't. You go home for 2 days and you go to the next place. So I don't think that there's. Look, I would, if prize money went up, then fuck, my rates better go up too, because that's all I'm saying. So yeah, fuck it, prize money, let's put it up, and I'll charge more. That's what we need, and everyone can make more money. But realistically, for the ecosystem of Counter-Strike, I think we're in a good place. I think we're going to continue to move forward when we need to. and I don't see the need to have the Dota International type style. And I know a lot of people think you do, but what that does is that devalues the rest of your events and the entirety of the calendar. So
I'm just gonna put one number out there, right? Just over the 200,000 events in 2018, the organizers gave out $11 million plus the Grand Slam. I actually forgot about the Grand Slam, so just make it 12. So basically, they give out $1 million every month. Do you actually think? And that's basically for like the top team.
How'd you get that number?
I just added it up from our events.
Like 250,000?
200,000 plus.
Okay.
From all those, we gave out 11 million plus Grand Slam, which is just derivative from that, obviously. So $12 million in 2018, considering Astralis won the Grand Slam. So that's $1 million every month, and that basically is just for the top 10, 15 teams, whatever, that consistently go to these events that offer up 200,000.
Like 10 DreamHack opens, add like
I said,
a bunch of other smaller $150,000 like the Malta event and stuff like that.
I added up like the rest of the international ones too, like and that adds up to another four something million, almost 5 million, I think it was when I added it up. So that's $17 million for like maybe the top 50 teams, teams that play internationally, basically. So maybe like a 50, 60 teams. Obviously, it's more, but just consistently, it's probably about 50. So that's quite a lot.
Well, that destroys the whole argument that CS is shit and Fortnite has so much more money. But Fortnite is giving out like 100 million in a year, but like 50 million of that is for like streamer competitions and stuff like that. So
can I just explain to everybody at home why this is scary? Because when we talk about Fortnite, we talk about the developer Epic Games fronting the prize money. When we talk about Counter-Strike as a whole, we talk about a bunch of different independent tournament organizers with sales departments who are out there doing the absolute best they can to sell a product with the word terrorist in it to all these different endemic, non-endemic sponsors to make enough money to run quality events, to fly 6 or 7 individuals of 16 different teams in some cases across the world and house them in a minimum of 4-star hotels, feed them 3 meals a day, and make sure that their every single need is completely looked after, right? That is what a TO is doing. That is what they're doing, right?
For 7 days, not 1 day like the Fortnite World Cup, and also having practice rooms and also having all of the shit that people need to play like Fortnite on their PCs before a match.
So
they can play it on their phones.
We have someone in the chat who is adamant that Valve should just, add a compendium. I feel that you don't completely grasp the concept here of what will happen. What happened in Dota for a long period of time, and they've only just gotten back with this DPC thing so you can earn points to go to the international, all that shit, is that the only event that anybody cared about was the international because it had the most money, which devalued every other event. What does that do? That scorns all the other tournament organizers who keep the ecosystem alive. Right? So you use your little brain here, think a little bit further. If Valve raised the prize money of the majors, let's say that they made it something absurd. Let's say that they just came out tomorrow and they made it $10 million. Okay, every single other event has now just been completely and utterly devalued. And if they are to do that and raise the prize money of majors, they're going to raise everybody else's expectations. Let me give you, that isn't bullshit. That's another opinion, bro. That's the thing. You can have an opinion, but I have a good feeling that I know more about the industry than you. I just have a little inkling of a feeling that I know a little bit more about the way that the industry of Counter-Strike and the back end and tournament organizers work than you. If Valve do that, then Valve should run their own event, right? Valve should run their own event because you're going to raise the bar of these fucking TOs to something that they can't get to. Epicenter came in with their money laundering money and they raised the bar originally by giving all the players practice rooms in the hotel.
Allegedly.
Right?
For legal reasons, allegedly.
Allegedly, of course. I just use that as a joke. But they came in and they did that. And you know what that did? That put so much pressure financially on all the TOs because now what do you need? Now you need an extra room for every single team. Okay, 16 times 1. Doesn't seem like a lot. Do you guys know how much it costs in a 4-star hotel to rent out a hotel room for 7 days and then fully refurbish it and make sure that the internet is good enough for them to be able to practice for? Like, I don't know if you guys have any concept of money. Like, this shit just doesn't grow on trees. This shit just doesn't come out of their ass. This is money that they physically have to fund. You know what I mean? And Striker's getting trolled by someone in his room. But
there's a mosquito or something.
But this kind of money, right? has to come from somewhere. And we need to gradually grow that. If Valve come in and they go, okay, well, we're going to make the major $2 million, that probably doesn't have the same impact. But list me right now 5 tournament organizers, right, who you think could have enough money to even stay on par or close to that. Because I can't even name 2, right? I can't even give you 2. I can give you 1 TO who could probably muster it and probably has enough backbone and enough connections in the industry and has been here long enough that they can do it. But I can't give you any more than that. So unfortunately, unless we want Valve to run everything, which they're never going to do, that's their handoff method with Counter-Strike, that's how they do this, we need to grow slowly. We can't just go, wasn't it only, when was the first major that was $1 million?
2000.
Was that E-League?
E-League, yeah.
So the Atlanta
E-League?
major.
I think
so,
No, Columbus 2016.
Oh, Columbus
2016. Yeah,
okay,
first NA major.
Okay, so it's been some time,
right?
So now the question becomes, well, if we raise the prize money more now, are we on the view for a new game? Is there a new Counter-Strike in the works? This is like a whole bunch of questions like that, right? Why would anybody list MLG? Why would Valve allow the company who has video games that are literally being made to be FPS rivals? Why would Valve allow the rival company, now owned by Activision, to run any of their events? In what world do you people who say those things actually think that MLG will ever be given a Valve major? Let me just explain that to you.
I think they just don't understand that they're owned by that company.
Yeah.
Amazon don't even sell Google fucking, what are they called? Chromecasts, because it's owned by one of their fucking rivals. They don't even sell them. This is business, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Unfortunately, right? It's a rough place to live. E-League, I had my whole spiel on E-League last time, guys. E-League is the same thing. E-League doesn't run tournaments because they don't make money. Why do you think they're going to front money? You think E-League want to put up money just to not get any money in return? They don't get any money from Counter-Strike. They hemorrhage money. This thing here, right, is that if we rock and roll, we can probably use a little bit more prize money, right? I'm not going to argue that. Everyone likes more money. But I think we just need to do it gradually. We just need to go gradually, guys. Let's just go gradually. Baby steps.
I'm just gonna add one more thing to it, and that's just my opinion, which is that I do think that the majors should be bigger than anything else, prize money wise, because that has obviously not been the case. There's been multiple tournaments that have either overcome it, which is WSG. Of course, that's competition wise, and viewership wise, this doesn't even come close. But still, the prize money is bigger, and then Pro League stuff like Pro League or ECS and stuff like that is obviously coming close to the majors. So having the majors bump up a little bit, maybe like to 2 million, nothing crazy, just to make it obvious that that's the biggest thing that we have in CS would not hurt at all. Like if we made it to like up to 3 million, let's say, which is just not a massive amount, it would be 6 million over the course of the year. I said we had 12 million in the other tournaments, all the other tournaments, so that's just half of what everybody else makes up. I feel like that's pretty reasonable.
I think the only thing I want to add on the whole thing is, in my opinion, CS could make more money from the CS players, CS community overall. As it is now, the only thing is like skins. You have stickers. What else? That's the whole thing, right? There's nothing else that makes money for CS at the moment, and obviously the Prime thing, whatever, that's €5, nothing much. So getting some more venues of making money into CS, make it like, one of the things that just crossed my mind is, imagine if you could watch a tournament, if you could buy like a premium pass to a tournament, to let's say ESL 1 Cologne, so you can watch the GoTV in the game. So you have like the major like feeling in the game, you have the GoTV, you can click around, you can watch everything. You pay like €5 for a tournament. And like the tournament organizer makes money off of that. Like some stuff like that, I think, is something that we can look to Valve and say, okay, we need to leverage the viewership that we have and the people that play the game to just make the scene a bit better. That's the thing, the reasonable way we can direct the whole Fortnite has 30 million, why am I not mega rich?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's a difficult one to balance, and at the end of the day, I hope that we grow into something where no one is even really talking about the money, because the money is a gimmick. The only reason that the ESPN tweeted out a thing is because of the money. It's not because of the game.
Yep.
It's because of the money. And I would love it eventually if Counter-Strike continues to grow and we get to a point. I don't want us to end up in the news because we have a lot of money. I want us to end up in the news because Counter-Strike is a game watched by millions of people around the world, and we want to see who the best team is. And I don't know. I've had this discussion multiple times before on this podcast, and I still don't remember, even though I've had Lucas pull it up multiple times. I don't know how much money you win if you win the Premier League. Nor do I care. I just know if you win the Premier League, you're the best team in the Premier League. That's all I care about, right? And for those who wonder why I'm talking about football. But that's what you want to get to. You want to get to a level of prestige with your sport. And then with that, the game itself is self-sufficient. Like, I don't know how much you win for winning the Rugby World Cup. I don't know any of those things. We want it to be built around just being the best. And that's the difference between competition and earning shitloads of money. And just one more thing. Obviously, I'm being trolled by this person. I spoke to people who work on Dota about their system, and they said that some of them previously, it's a while ago now, it's like a year and a half ago, said that they would prefer to have the Counter-Strike system as opposed to their system, which at the time it's chopped and changed a lot, but they didn't like the way it was working. It meant that it was hard for teams to feed in, or other teams didn't care, because if you got straight back into international, that's all that mattered, right? Imagine this, guys. Imagine if we had a TI for Counter-Strike and Liquid and Astralis. Liquid, Astralis, Na'Vi, and Vitality only ever played in the TI every year. I don't know if that was the case with Dota, but I'm saying that could be the possibility. So, anyway. It's all good. Anyway, this person's going to continue to argue with me, and I'm really not in the mood. Let's fucking do this last question.
Do not feed the troll.
This last question. Who won, Lucas?
I think pretty sure it was the second one.
Yeah, which one? What was it?
The major rule change. Major rule change.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the major rule change. Which one were we talking about exactly? Because I had Prof.
Well, just the reversion of the roster stuff, right? That's what you had in mind, Prof?
Yeah. I mean, that was the big news, right? With Hellraisers. Then tying in the whole Hellraisers playing with Nuki. Actually signing
MIBR being allowed to swap in Zeus.
MIBR swapping in Zeus, and Freeman coming in for Tyloo. That is also a thing that happened.
Right.
One of the things that, first of all, the most important part is that even before this rule change was announced, Freeman was signed up for Tyloo, and Nuki was signed up for Hellraisers, obviously implying that these guys were set on using them, even though the rule was they needed a medical emergency to swap someone out, or like a visa issue. And obviously making a visa issue up is, it's the easiest thing in the world. We'll just put in the visa application too late and you don't have a visa. Wow, now your coach needs to play. GG boys. So the whole thing was kind of a rule that was very easily avoided, I feel like. So the thing that they pulled it back, I think it's shit. I think it's bad to do something like that halfway through the whole thing, because obviously some other teams that didn't want to break the rules or fuck around with some things could have done the same thing. But in the end, I don't think it matters that much. I think it's obvious that teams like Hellraisers don't care about anything but themselves, and they are willing to risk their reputation to have a place at the major. Seeing how their team is at the moment, I think it's a valuable risk, because they they surely would not make the major. So they're willing to take the bad rep, but I think they need to suffer from the community because of it. I don't know, at least me personally, I was kind of fond of them as a team, kind of putting that, they're going in a different direction right now. Just, I don't know, there's nothing that we can punish them with as a tournament organizer or anything, but it's definitely not a cool move. And yeah, I don't know, what can be done is something really needs to change moving forward, obviously, because people continue to do this because the major is so hard to qualify for.
It might have to be the player union taking a hard stance on this, right? Which I don't know how much faith we can put in them to get something like this done, because they're all very busy and they all have their own agendas, and this might actually help one of them in the future. But in terms of the way that we look at it, It's kind of against the rule, the spirit of the rule, or the spirit of what we're looking for here. I hate the fact that MIBR have to go in and play yet another major. What is this, the third major they've had to play with a stand-in? Like, what are we?
They had Bolts when they play, or Phelps. Fox. They had Bolts at 1. They had they had Fox, and they have now Zeus. So
yeah, and that's 3. We're talking about the biggest event in the world where we want more prize money, but the rules aren't even in line with having the most competitive Counter-Strike. So, what the fuck are we even talking about here? This one here was kind of a nothing topic. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot to go over. It's bad, and it shouldn't be that way, but this is what we got. You got anything, Striker?
I think there's also one other way, at least. Like, sure, the emergencies can be kind of faked, but at the same time, like, if you... Obviously, you have to... These organizers are now kind of, like, keeping track of how teams are with visas, like, when they put in the requests and stuff like that, and they actually keep track of that now, or at least for the majors, from what I know, they just require some sort of documentation from the teams just to make sure that the process is coming along and stuff like that. So putting it in light would probably not constitute an emergency. It would just like make them disqualified. Or
medical
whatever.
Emergencies, though.
Medical emergencies. That's what I was getting into. Would be, I guess, partially fixable if you had external doctors like verifying this kind of the problems. The problem is like
look at this.
If it is very late.
No. Look, just simply put like this. Every player has like some sort of RSI. Like everyone has some kind of pain in their wrist because they're playing 10 hours of CS every day. So there's no way someone is telling me in any country in the world, any player of CS can't go to the doctor and say, I have this, this, and this, and he won't say, okay, I'll sign this that you can't play, because it's like the only thing that doctors literally say to you when you come to them, I have a problem, like, okay, take a week of rest and less stress. That is literally what they say. So this is it's not a thing. It really can't help.
I'm not sure what the experience with the hospitals is in Croatia, but I haven't had that experience particularly. But I understand.
Use these like pills, basic pills, and maybe get a blood test of something if you're actually fucked. But like 90% of the thing is like you're not gonna be doing anything. It's just like you're doing one thing and that is injuring you, so stop doing that thing.
Yeah,
you can't play CS.
But I mean, usually
there's so many workarounds.
There's some tests. There are a lot of the tests that can go with it. But I understand there's still ways. It would just be obviously a lot more complicated than just like finding a doctor of your own choosing that you've probably like went to when you wanted a day off at school or whatever, and who you obviously know is going to be able to give you that. It would obviously be harder if it was somebody you don't know. If it was somebody who just came to your house to inspect you and whatever. So I'm just saying that it would be like another way of trying to mitigate these. But obviously, I understand that people would still find a way.
Yeah, life finds a way. Great quote from a great man. But I got another great quote for everybody here, and this is why you've all come here this evening. Imagine that you're walking/jogging or going to somewhere by foot in Spain and Jonathan E walks past you, then what you gonna do? Quote. I will personally hug him and kiss him on cheek and ask whether he would like to have a drink together. Of course, announcing to him that I am a fellow HLTV user. This is from HLTV user Hannah Murphy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the appearance of Jonathan E. He's not real. Jonathan E is actually just, he's fake. He's not a real person. He's just, he's been brought out so you guys all have something to hate, right? Because you'll get banned on the forums and they've made Jonathan E a martyr. He's not even a human being. He's actually just a group account that all of HLTV.org people, they have to ban you so that you can all hate together. And on that bombshell, we're going to be ending the podcast. So we're going to be back on the 6th, I believe. And we're going to be doing a longer episode. More details to come with that, but we'll do a longer episode, hopefully get some guests in. We'll be doing a recap of the year so far. So put that one in your calendars. And then I believe the other date we'll be back will be the 19th. And then we'll be doing the major Challenger stage previews. So tonight we had a lot to catch up on. We're hopefully going to be back here quite a lot. You can get the audio versions of the podcast, anchor.fm/HLTV for all of the previous podcasts. You can listen to us rambling, talking about Counter-Strike. But yeah, Jonathan E, he doesn't exist. Fuck all of y'all. We're out.